Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Van Hook, and I'm the Regional Director of this Florida Small Business Development Center at FIU and also the Florida Apex Accelerator at FIU. I'm here with my colleague, Luis Batista from the Florida Apex program. We'll let everybody stream in for a minute. So just thank you for joining the webinar that's focused on cybersecurity, and we'll give you a minute to stream in. And also, we would encourage you to put in the chat kind of who are you, what's your business, because we want to get to know you as you're coming in. See Charles joining. Hey, Charles. Okay. So Charles, we'll go ahead and get started. I know some other folks are going to stream in. As I mentioned, my name is Brian Van Hook, and I am the Regional Director of both the Florida Small Business Development Center at FIU and also the Florida Apex Accelerator here at FIU. Louis, do you want to introduce yourself or say hi?
Good afternoon. I'm with Apex Accelerators. We were previously known as Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, and basically our mandate is to assist small business with entering and expanding their footprint into the government sector, both locally and in the federal sectors.
Man, that was a good job, Louis. It kind of helps me to skip a couple slides. I can go through. So I'm going to start sharing. We would encourage you to put in the chat if you have any questions for Louis or I. And then we will save time at the end to answer your questions. And just appreciate you coming in. We know it's a rainy, windy day, so we just appreciate everybody being in. So I'm going to start sharing. Okay. Okay. And we're here to talk about cybersecurity for your small business. So if you're here on that topic, you're on the right webinar. And then Lewis kind of gave a good introduction on his background. As I mentioned, basically, I'm the regional director of the center. Worked for almost 20 years with federal government, both as an employee and as a resource partner. So I'm a recovering congressional employee, also recovering federal employee, and worked on a couple different areas such as technology, telecom, cybersecurity, both at the Department of Commerce and in the United States Senate. And then Lewis gave a really good introduction of the PTAC program and the Apex accelerators. There's over 96 Apex accelerators around the country. So if you're in Miami-Dade and also the Florida Keys, then we are your Apex accelerator. As Lewis noted, focused on DoD, focused on federal government, state and local contracting. And then an additional priority for the program is to connect local small businesses to government-led innovation programs such as the SBIR, STTR, other programs as well. And then this is the whole team. So if you're not in Miami-Dade or the Keys, there are additional Apex Accelerator consultants around the state. So you can get connected to them. So we would encourage you just email us and we can basically get you connected with them. And as we mentioned, Apex Accelerator can help you register in those databases such as SAM, DemandStar, get you connected to government procurement agents that are looking for your products and services. Also just help you networking with contracting officers, with primes. Anything else on Apex I should highlight, Louis?
I think the biggest question that always comes up for me is when can I enter government contracting? And that's really depends on the sector and your experience in it. But no, nothing additional there, but I did want to point that out.
Cool, thanks. And then the Apex program also has a lot of really good resources they can help you out with, whether that's research, whether that's connecting you with university partners such as FIU. They have a lot of webinars and in-person workshops. Also, there's a National Apex Accelerator Alliance, kind of like the national organization. So there's just a lot of really good resources. And then this is the great thing about the program is that it has a lot of impact for local small businesses. So these are the numbers from last year from the Apex Accelerator in terms of economic impact. on sales, on jobs, and return on investment. Some additional information on the clients. And then just would shout out the SBDC program. The SBDC is a partner of the Apex Accelerator. We are an SBA resource partner under Florida SBDC at FIU. And like Apex, we're focused on impact and outcomes for businesses. This is our Miami-Dade team that we have. And this is also our Florida Keys team. And would just say shout out to the team. We are the kind of like the outgoing, the 2023 National SBDC of the Year. So we're really proud of that recognition because there's about 1,000 SBDCs in the country. And SBDC can help you with access to capital, marketing, business continuity, growth and expansion. So it can help you in a couple different areas. And then now that we got through kind of the introductions, let's get into the type of information we're going to go over today. So we're going to review the cyber threat landscape, who's going to attack your business, why hackers target small businesses. We'll talk about how you can identify critical information in your business. And then we'll share best practices and resources you can take advantage of. And then I would give the disclaimer, I don't know everything about your business. Lewis doesn't know everything about your business. So we can't kind of like use a crystal ball and envision every type of attack or every type of thing for your particular business. So there might be some steps that we might not cover regarding certain types of data and information. So we might not cover everything in the review. So we would encourage you to get a better understanding of any obligations you have, any requirements regarding like different cyber breaches or information breaches for your business, to consult with your technology or your legal partners just to give you a better understanding because they'll know your business or your particular industry better than Lewis and I would. So they could probably cover some more steps. So I do like to give the disclaimer, even though Lewis and I are very smart and we know a lot, we don't know everything. And then I do like to start the presentation in terms of like there are some legal requirements. So there is a Florida law, Florida statute that is focused on any breach of security that affects 500 or more individuals in the state of Florida. You have to provide notice to the department as soon as you can, but not later than 30 days after you determine that there's a breach or you reasonably believe there was a breach. And then you are required, if it's that 500 or more individuals, to send a notification to each and every person in Florida whose information was breached or you believe it could have been breached. So we do encourage you to contact your attorney to review any obligation you might have had under this Florida law. And then I did put the link up there as well in regards to that. And Lewis, anything on the statute or anything else on kind of legal requirements?
No, only that this is Florida law and the federal government, if you're in federal contracting, they're gonna have their own laws.
Yeah.
Or you wanna keep track of that as well.
Good point. And then I would divide the different kind of threat actors into 4 buckets. So there's obviously criminals that are going to try to like steal something for profit. There's hacktivists that have like kind of like an agenda, whether it's a political agenda or some other type of agenda for particular companies. There's like old school espionage where people are trying to steal corporate secrets or kind of do some different hacking on behalf of governments. And then there's obviously war in terms of, like a great example would be like Ukraine and Russia or, China, other, countries like that that use hacking and cyber attacks as part of their overall military strategy. So those are kind of the 4 buckets that folks could come at your business. And then the type of cyber threats that they have, it's a variety of different ones, from denial of service, phishing and spear phishing, ransomware, spyware, computer viruses, just old school steal your device, like physically take it and then be able in the comfort of their home to be able to like, get into your device. Also Internet of Things hacking as well has been more common in terms of like different things like cameras or, baby monitors and things like that.
I do wanna make a point here.
Mhm.
You can have the strongest defense in the world, and it's the phishing that's gonna get you because you're literally opening the front door.
Mhm. Yeah.
So important to train your staff on how to recognize these potential phishing attacks and reporting them to your IT department. That's where the weak link is, to speak.
Mhm. Yeah, and like Lewis said, for phishing, that's basically an email, a text, a pop-up message that wants to trick you into terms of giving them information. More advanced attacks are like information that they get from like an employee, from social media, from any account information. I do have an example to give you. Spear phishing is like when they get more information. So they have like real detailed information. I can give you an example. We did this particular presentation for like a large company, and it was for their supplier. So a lot of their supply chain. And when I'm talking about spear phishing, a guy raises his hand. I don't mind questions during the presentation, but he was like really, really raising his hand. And he's like, "Hey, this is good information." I was like, "Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you." And he said, "No, this is good information. One of my colleagues was supposed to be here today, and they actually were a target of spear phishing, where he was in a trip in Orlando, and somebody emailed, like, looked like his email address, and emailed like the secretary of the office or the assistant and said, "Can you please wire the like $10,000 to this account?" And it looked legitimate, so she went ahead and wired the information to the account. And then afterwards, they found out that the guy didn't do it, and so they had to go back and do all the forensic, investigation and reporting it and things like that. So he said, "Yeah, I wish that guy would have seen this presentation before that happened because he would have been more mindful." So, like Lewis said, it's very, very popular, very like prevalent in the small business community. Um, Ransomware is where you make critical information or systems inaccessible via encryption. Victims must pay a ransom to receive the decryption key. A lot of times you'll pay, but they won't give you a decryption key. Sometimes they will give you a decryption key, but they'll also give you a virus or spyware or something else in there because they already know you paid once. So they might be able to like get some more money out of you. So it is like very unreliable in terms of when you do have ransomware, kind of like what the response is, and if you get access to the systems again. And then I was going to give you an example. This is actually an email that I got to my personal email address. So I blacked out my information, but this was actually something from Chase that came to me. Looks like a legitimate email address, but if you hover over, it was like from Chase, customer service or something. But if you hover over it, that's where you see it was a UC Santa Barbara email address. So it was like somebody's email address that had been hacked, that they were basically using it to spoof and send this type of email. So if you click, and when you hover over the chase.com at the bottom, it did not go to chase.com. It went to another link. So they're basically sending this to me. And I actually forwarded it to Chase and said, I don't even have a Chase account. Just forward it to you guys in case this is something. They were like, "Thank you. This is a phishing attack. Thank you for reporting it, whatever." But there's just an example of what you might get, in terms of like potential phishing emails. And for this one, this was not necessarily like a spear phishing because they didn't do the research to know that I have a Chase account. They just basically sent it to try to get anybody to click on it. And then kind of what would the breach cost your business? On the right side is more like the tangible impacts for your business, like losing customers, having fines, legal fees, investigation fees, like they increase your insurance, you lose any contracts you have. On the left side, basically, is like your loss of reputation, your loss of trust, your loss of brand image. So these are all things that could be impacted if your business didn't have a breach. And then we have the stat up there. The total cost of a data breach to a small business, when you factor in all these type of things, is about 1.9 million for disrupted operations. So, a lot of small businesses don't have that type of money. And then we would just know basically more transactions than ever online or via apps. So customers expect a secure shop. And then they do let their wallets do the walk-in and the talk-in because they have choices on where they can do business. And security has always been like a priority for them. So don't let your customers doubt whether they are putting their poor trust in you because you have a security breach or you don't have good cybersecurity prep. And then just some final statistics in terms of like about 60% of small businesses shut down within 6 months of a cyber attack. According to Verizon, 71% of investigated data breaches targeted small businesses with 100 or fewer employees, and businesses with 10 or less employees, which is most in Miami-Dade County, are frequently targeted. So we're going to go over for why they actually target small businesses. But before I move on, Louis, any other points I missed or anything you want to highlight?
Nothing you missed, but I guess at the end of the day, nothing is 100% secure.
Mhm.
Our task here is to make it as secure as possible. And where mistakes are made and breaches, occur, to report them to the proper authorities, be they state or federal, so that, they can collect that information and hopefully act on it.
That's a great point. And then we're here in South Florida. I know a lot of folks aren't fishing today, but we're all out fishing. And when you're fishing, you're basically using a smaller fish to catch a bigger fish. So that's basically one of the main reasons why small businesses are cyber targets. So the 5 reasons that they target small businesses is because you're in the supply chain. So they can use your company as an entry point to get up to larger companies or contractors or partners. Um, for small businesses, you don't have the budget, you don't have the time, the expertise to have advanced security. So you're an easier target. And a lot of small businesses will go into it later on, but you do have data people want. You have employee data, credit card information, health data. So there is information that folks can get and can monetize it or can lock it up and hurt your business. And then the last two is basically return on investment. You could spend about $5,900 for 1 month on a ransomware campaign, but if you catch a couple of businesses, you could get about $90,000 in revenue. So that's a good return on investment. And then also, like we showed you for the email for Chase, they're playing the number. So they could like just send out thousands or millions of emails, and they only need a couple to respond back to basically pay off on what they're doing. So you saw the email for Chase. To me, I don't have a Chase account, but they just send it out and see who clicks on the link. So in terms of recommendations, just like you get in the shoes of your customers to kind of like build a client profile or a business profile, one of the things you can do from cybersecurity is to think like a hacker. So when you're thinking like a hacker, where's your data? Is it in the cloud? Is it on a server in the back of your office? Is that server like out in the open? So basically, where is it at? How does it flow? Is it only within your physical office? Is your sales team out there? Who has access to it? Does everybody have access? So would that be folks like the janitor? Does the janitor need access to all the employee salary information? Does the office assistant need information on like client health data? So you can basically segregate out who has access to kind of better protect your business. Also, is the data encrypted in transit or at rest? And is like breaking into buckets? Is all the data considered to be sensitive or only specific data sets um, like of interest like are sensitive for that? Anything on that, Lewis? Anything else on data?
There's two safe cloud environments. One for the state, they call it state ramp, and the other is FedRAMP for the federal government, where they want you to keep your confidential user information, your CUI. The difference is that in FedRAMP, and this is if you're a federal contractor and you have a Department of Defense contract that requires you abide by these compliance with FedRAMP. It's one system. FedRAMP and different companies are authorized. AWS, Google, the usual suspects, and others. State ramp are actually run by the individual states. So it gets a little more complicated, but they do have their own set of rules. And what Brian was talking about, where if you keep all of your confidential user information in a closet in your office, that's fine, you're not using the cloud, but still, who has the keys to that closet, right? Does the janitor have the keys to that closet? Um, so that's what's happening with confidential user information. The states and the federal government are both instituting, or rather authorizing companies that have met certain requirements, which are pretty substantial in order to uh, save your information on a safe cloud.
Mhm. And then in terms of data monitoring, do you have like a data monitor program that basically logs every time something tries to touch or touches your system or your sensitive data? So that way you do have a log of that. Data breach researchers recommend that all businesses implement that security information and event monitoring program. It can help you with discovering malicious activity before they get access to your system, maybe mitigate an attack. It also helps you when you're doing like the legal prosecution or the investigation. And that would be something that insurance would probably want if you're going to make a claim, if you have cyber insurance or another type of insurance. So it is a good investment for your business. And then the other thing is just like when you're thinking like a hacker is why is your data valuable? Who would want to steal it? Most businesses probably wouldn't know this just offhand, but you can actually do internet research now to look up similar companies in your industry that had a breach. You can also reach out to law enforcement, local law enforcement, the FBI, Secret Service, those type of groups. You can get involved in groups like InfraGard, where they are open to the private sector, where you can find out those type of information, like what was taken, when was the data breach discovered. That'll help you kind of like do it. A lot of industry associations also have this type of information, where they do webinars just like Lewis and I are doing on cybersecurity, and you would ask like the usual questions like you're a reporter, and want to learn from their misfortune so that it can help you to protect your business against a similar attack. And most of those are pretty high profile. So those are things that you can find in a newspaper or you can find it like out on the internet. And then in terms of your business, critical information could be a variety of different things. It could be customer information, financial transaction information, your website, your partner information, a portal into like another partner's website. Whether you're like a contractor, whether you're like working with another business. Obviously, any employee W-2 information, social security numbers, tax ID numbers, any type of transaction or payment history where they can get particular amounts or particular like information. And then there's obviously patents, any unique information or software that you have access to. So that's the type of information that would be of interest to hackers, and could be potentially stolen or accessed. And then this is like the usual section you'll see in any of these type of presentations. In terms of your passwords, basically don't use your personal information. So we know that you love your dog or you love your cat or your kids, but that can easily be found online. So somebody could find out what's your daughter's birthday or birth year, what's their name. Um, Obviously, a lot of hackers are able to get access to one password on the dark web. They can find if you have similar accounts and use the same password in those other accounts to try to hack it. Using common words or dates is a big no-no. And then also, what do they say? Convenience is the enemy of security. So having a post-it next to your desk would be like somebody gets physical access to your computer or your office, they can easily hack in. Or if they get physical access or remote access to your computer, they can basically just log in using the username and password because you saved it in there. So you do want to be a little more careful with those type of things because just because it's easy for you to log in doesn't mean it's easy. It's gonna make it easier for somebody to like hack your system. Anything else on passwords, Lewis?
Uh, Authentication. There's
Mhm.
many apps now that you can use to authenticate. Just using a password to get in, it's convenient, but you need to use that authentication where they send you a code. There's so many different ways to authenticate. but do it for everything.
Yeah, and then as Lewis said, use multi-factor authentication. Somebody has to have access to your computer or to your phone, or to another email address that you can get. You want to change the passwords regularly. Those are things that you can require, change it on a monthly basis, on every 2 months or something. You have a lot of different characters at your disposal. So you could use 8 characters. I know for other organizations like FIU and SBDC, it's like 10 or 12 characters now. And you want to use all the things, all the tools in your toolbox, uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers and symbols. So you can use all those to make it a lot tougher to crack it.
Here's something interesting that's been floating around. Um, Not to change your password every month. And the reason why they're discussing this is because, or every 3 months, because you forget. You forget. The some thinking now is just to make it a very complicated password. Yeah, you need to change it once in a while. I mean, suspected data breach once a year, whatever it is. But it's interesting to see those difference in thoughts in methodology.
Mhm. Yeah, because it is tough to keep up with the password. You'll remember like what the old password was, not the new one, and then you'll have to change it again. Um, so they do have a lot of like password keepers and things like that. So you only have to remember one password to get in, and then you can get access to a bunch of other passwords. So are some programs and different things you can use. And then this is something I do include just because now mobile devices are everywhere. In terms of your cell phone, in terms of iPads, in terms of other types of things. Not all devices are created equal in terms of security. So you do want to update your mobile device software and your mobile apps if your company allows it. You also want to have anti-malware on the mobile devices. And then just like we stressed for the other types of programs, is have strong authentication and passwords. Um, and you also want to encrypt your mobile device communications, your data or text, because it could be like the kind of like the different videos you can see where somebody's in a coffee shop, basically just like looking at what you're doing, or kind of monitoring what you're doing because everything's on public Wi-Fi. Um, would say in terms of don'ts, don't trust third-party software or apps. If this is a company purchased device, you can set the rules. You can set the rules of the road. So you can limit or block applications on it. Whether that's like TikTok or Facebook or I don't know, like Pokemon Go, like they used to have, or something else. What's the point of having that on a work device? So if you do have a company device, you should basically be really, really strict with apps because you're only as good as the latest patch or the latest update. And for those could basically cause security issues for your particular mobile device. One of the things is also just plan for a lost or stolen device. That's the easiest thing is somebody doesn't have to necessarily hack into it. They can just take it and work on it on their own time. So you do want to have like a standard operating procedure or like a plan if you have a lost or stolen device in terms of being able to shut it down or lock the thing or like basically not having data and information on it. We did mention also using unsecured wireless networks and hiding your Bluetooth from discovery. So you really want to have those devices locked down. I did take a cybersecurity training at FIU, and a lot of folks that I've talked to, cyber experts, said that the training wasn't necessarily the guy was really making an example, but it wasn't always the most ethical because we took a lunch break and we came back and some people were like checking their email or checking something, and he was able to see because they had a network that was similar to like ATT Wi-Fi or something that people were automatically migrating to that Wi-Fi. He was able to say, "Look, I didn't look at your information, but I did see somebody went to the Bank of America website, somebody went to CNN, somebody went to this web page, and people were like aghast on it." And he said, "I didn't look at your passwords, I didn't look at anything, but this just shows you got to be careful about public Wi-Fi in terms of like your system, because that was your device is basically auto migrating to those particular public Wi-Fis, and it wasn't like a reliable network." So you do want to be mindful of that. And also just don't open unexpected text messages or a suspicious email. I know for FIU, we get random phishing emails that are sent out. And actually, a lot of us, like Lewis and I, we do forward it back to the phishing account. And they'll be like, thank you, this was a phishing test. So they do basically do like random tests for that. Anything else on mobile devices, Lewis?
No, you actually mentioned it on the Wi-Fi, but an easy way for anyone to do it is just to create a shared hotspot with
Mhm.
the same name of the place that you're at, or just to confuse them. And then with a little bit of software, they can do just what that gentleman did. Really be careful when you sign on to other people's Wi-Fi or shared networks. And you don't want to have that automatic where it just signs on to whatever's available anywhere. You want to control that.
Yeah, and you can click like the option that says like ask before joining. So then you could be like, do you really want to join that network? In terms of cybersecurity, this is kind of what the federal government spends. Obviously, not billions of dollars. Basically, Microsoft spends billions of dollars. Bank of America spends $1 billion. So obviously, your budget for your small business, you don't have $1 billion. So I would kind of propose how much are you willing to spend to protect your business? And in my humble suggestion, if you were going to spend anything for you or your team, I would train your employees because basically you're only as good as the weakest link in your office. So I would encourage you to spend some money or devote some attention on training your employees on cyber awareness in your particular business. So we went through some technology, like some different tips and things like that, but your employees are your front line. They're your basically first line of defense. Um, so you need to encourage them to report a strange email or any computer activity. No question is a dumb question. No information they're flagging is like a bad information they're flagging. You need to encourage like a culture that's going to say, "Hey, I see something." Just like they say, "See something, say something." Because that could be basically your way to identify something before it's forwarded or opened. Also, you can train your team on the tools that you're using, either to identify different cyber activity or if there's any tools that you're using in the office to protect your business. We do have some.
Something,
Oh, go ahead, Lewis.
no, I'm sorry. Um, Regarding the employees and that weakest link that I mentioned earlier, and Ryan showed a really nice graphic of with a paperclip, there's something called zero trust. Okay. And that was also mentioned earlier, but it's so important. Not everybody in your office needs access to every bit of information. And I've worked for many companies, even quasi-government agencies, where they just share all the servers. That's a mistake. Control
Yeah.
that, and you control probably 95% of the access.
Mhm. So we did include some security awareness tools that are up here. There's a cyber planner from the FCC. It's a little old school, but you can basically make a custom cyber plan for your business, tailored for what you want to do. It's available at the link up there. There's a couple of other ones. I know before is a way that you can design some particular phishing tests. It is something that there's some free tools you can use, and then there's ones that you can pay for more advanced stuff. So I know actually it is something you can utilize. Like if like the free one might just be a random phishing email that you can send out to your team, and you can kind of see who opens it and then discuss it with your team. If you pay, I think they have like Domino's pizza coupons. So I'd be scared to send that because I know sometimes you would get a lot more people opening up like a free coupon on it. But those are some tools that you can use for cyber awareness. These are also some security awareness tools from the FBI. Some of those are focused on like kids that you can use. So these are a couple of other tools as well that you can use. And then these are more kind of Florida specific ones, the Florida Center for Cybersecurity, and also Secure Florida, where they have a free cyber training. And these are things that you can do with your team. You can just sit around like the conference table and just pick it for like a Friday afternoon and just go over it. Even if you spend 2 or 3 hours on it, it will be well worth your time in terms of how much it would be cost to like do investigations or notify customers and partners and things like that. And then I know we're getting kind of close to the end. So we did want to make a couple of notes about remote work because that's very common nowadays to have remote employees. So obviously everybody was remote during COVID. We all adapted to it. It was something that companies were able to adopt that to large measure post-COVID. Um, but would note that this increases the cybersecurity risk to your company and the potential cost of a data breach to your business. So I did include some information up here from NIST, also the National Cybersecurity Alliance. That does give you some different like tools and resources regarding like virtual meetings, and how to make them more secure, telework and remote access, any scams that are out there. So I did include some information on that. And then also specific here to Florida, did include some different resources as well from the Cyber Florida website. Anything else on remote work, Lewis?
No, it's been a real problem. Yeah, you need to secure everything in the chain. Um, that's my only comment on that. It's been a real change.
Mhm.
And you can't, yeah, the notebooks, the phones, no
I
specific.
think it's also going back to like who should have access to particular data sets. So is there some confidential or sensitive data? Should everybody have access to that, like on a Teams folder, on like a G drive or whatever? So
Like
basically making sure.
federal employees are required to take off TikTok, for example.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, if you have mobile devices for your employees and you're paying for them, uh, you can lock them down. You can lock them down quite substantially.
Yeah, it makes it safer. And then I did want to end on like cyber insurance. I know that's always a topic. For cybersecurity insurance, if it's right for your business, the answer, like any good answer, is it depends. Policies do exist, but you should read the fine print and comply with their requirements because then you might not be eligible for it or in compliance. And then you want to answer your insurance agent's questions candidly. And just like the commercial, you're covered for this, but you're not covered for that. So you do want to review those and ask a lot of questions. Some of the questions you can ask is, are the policies bundled? Are they standalone? Is there policy exclusions? How much coverage should I purchase? Who is the breach response firm? And then does cyber difference in conditions coverage make sense for your particular business? So those are some particular cyber insurance questions. I'm not going to go too deep into that because there's probably whole webinars focused on it, but that is an option for your business if you're interested.
The point I would make there is who is your
Mhm.
breach response team for the insurance company? They'll have one. And they're all gonna have in their, I'm not an insurance expert, but they're all gonna have in their policies that you have to report the breaches within a certain amount of time.
Mhm.
They'll work with you. They'll actually work with you. They're a team within these insurance companies. And really, cyber insurance is not that expensive. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, definitely know who the response firm is and kind of follow all the regulations because if you wait like a year or like 6 months, then you might not be in compliance and you wouldn't be able to file a claim. And then I did include some additional resources on the FBI InfraGard. There's a very active South Florida InfraGard chapter. So that is something that you could, if you have a business, you'd be eligible for. There's also the Federal Trade Commission website, FBI. I also did include FishMe, which is a good website that just has like infographics, so little things that you could put up around the office and print out to kind of raise awareness on the business. And then, Lewis, any kind of like closing thoughts or any kind of closing points before I turn it over to questions?
no, other than it's a complicated subject, right? A lot of the small businesses will outsource much of their IT requirements to an MSP, a managed service provider, and that's fine, but you still have certain responsibilities. There's so many resources out there, it almost becomes, too much information. Um, there are very basic things, two-factor authorization, you know, the same way that I cannot load uh yeah, apps on my work computer, to play games. I can't load anything on my work computer. It doesn't let me. You can also set your phones to be the same way for your employees where they can't just load
Mhm.
anything out.
Yeah, you
So I
could
would just say,
set those
yeah,
policies.
yeah, it's a process and it, it, it's a culture within a company to be cybersecure.
Mhm. Yeah. So I don't see any questions in the chat on it. So we would shout out, like Genesis mentioned, we do have a webinar coming up on Government Contracting 101 under Apex. That's on November 13th. So they did include the registration link in the chat. And if you have any questions, you can email us or follow up. So with that, just on behalf of myself, on behalf of Lewis, just want to thank you guys for attending the webinar. I just want to thank Lewis for his time. I know he's super busy meeting with clients on government contracts, so we appreciate him kind of being with us for about 45 minutes.
And everybody be safe.
Mhm.
These storms are no joke. I went through Andrew and I can't believe Helene killed so many people in North Carolina. So everybody
Mhm.
be safe.
Yeah, everybody be safe. Have a good rest of your week. And just thank you for your time. Take care.